right, guys, welcome to today's show. And I have a very, very special guest, one of my favorite people, one of my favorite activists from New York City, my main man, Christopher Wright.
Representing Brooklyn.
Brooklyn in the house. Oh, you are by far, I told you earlier, you're like one of my favorite, if not my favorite activists in New York.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that, man.
Dude.
Hey, man, I'm holding it down, man. I'm glad I got your eyes of respect, man. I appreciate that, brother.
Dude, every time I turn on social media, Christopher Wright is doing something. Christopher Wright is on the streets. Christopher Wright has his megaphone. Christopher Wright is out there repping and triggering everybody. By the way,
man, look, man, I'm here to make the snowflakes melt. That's all I want to do, man. You know what I mean? Liberal tears are delicious. I'm trying to get my fair share. That's all.
So, like the basic thing, I think people would just want to know, first of all, can we get a quick snapshot of who Christopher Wright is?
Okay. All right. Well, to give people an idea, it kind of, all kind of began, I was younger, always been kind of politics when I was a kid. I was a military brat growing up. Dad's a veteran, Army Major veteran. I lived in Germany 5 years. When I was a kid on military base, bomb-holder Mannheim, saw the Berlin Wall fall when I was a little boy. We came to the States in 91, moved to Maryland, where I grew up. I spent most of my life there. I always been into politics, mostly Democrat most of my life. 2008, I campaigned for Obama, went door to door for him, helped get a bunch of votes for him down in Georgia, all this good stuff, that I was bringing change, and yes, we can, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Time went by, I kind of saw that the Democratic Party was not what I thought it was. Obama definitely wasn't who I thought he was. I started looking around and see what was out there in terms of politics other than the Democratic Party. So when I would look at other candidates that were, Herman Cain of the world, first in 2012, and Ron Paul, right. They caught my attention. I want to, go out and support them, but I saw how the news kind of infiltrate the situation, and right. They lied about these people, and they manipulate the public, and they believe in the lies, and ruin their chances to become president. And I was pretty fed up with it, but, in 2016, I said, look, Dr. Ben Carson's running. I'm going to support him. He's a great man. My dad,
great guy.
So you know a lot about Dr. Ben Carson, everybody out there. But, my dad met him twice when we were growing up, because he's Seventh-day Adventist like Dr. Ben Carson. So he met him in church a couple of times, gave me the book, Gifted Hands, when I was a little boy, kind of telling me, as a young, my father to son kind of talk, hey, in this country, you can be anything you want. You don't have to be a rapper. You don't have to be
That's beautiful.
An actor. Nothing like that, man. You can be, if you work hard and put your mind to it, you can be anything in this country, And so, I learned a lot, reading that book. And he's the first neurosurgeon to separate Siamese twins from the head and everything like that. Like a brilliant man, you know what I mean? So when he ran in 2016, I was like, look, I'm supporting him. I don't care what anybody says. But when I came on social media and said, look, I'm going to be voting for Dr. Ben Carson, I got a lot of backlash. Anybody out there knows who's conservative with family and friends who are on the left. They understand, like, it was a lot of backlash when you come out and say, you're going to be voting on a conservative or voting for Trump. And, so I got a lot of heat, and I dealt with it, man. I really had to, battle with a lot of friends and family and kind of go back and forth on social media. And it got to the point when the media lied about Dr. Ben Carson, and they ruined his chances to win the election, about the whole West Point situation. I saw Trump as the candidate I was going to, kind of support, because I like a lot of Trump's policies. I didn't know at first he was serious in that. I thought he was, just trying to, put his name out there. Hey, man, what's up? I ran for president, buy my new steaks or whatever. Trump's always been a businessman, a hustle, always like
right.
So I just didn't know, if he was really about that life, man. But when I looked at his policies, I liked what he had to say. And when I looked at his older interviews from the late 70s, early 80s, he was saying the very same things he's saying now, he was saying back then.
That's true.
I was like, man, I was like, yo, okay, Trump, all right, if you're serious, man, you got my support. So when I came out and said on social media, I'm going to be voting for Trump. Yo, you would thought an earthquake went off, man. It was.
I can imagine. We all know, especially given the fact that, not that it should matter, but the fact that you're a black man. Yeah. And it's a weird thing, man. It's they look at you like, what have you done? And I don't understand that mentality. What do you understand why people attack people like you and me who decide to step out of this box and let's try conservatism. Let's try to vote Republican.
Yeah, it's a good question, man. I thought about it for quite a bit of time, because when I remember I was a Democrat, and I tell people this story a lot. I grew up, in a household, like my parents told me, like when I turned 18, my mom registered me to vote online. And I could tell it's very important for her, for me to register.
Right.
I said, what's the big deal? She's like, you don't know what happened in the past for you to be able to vote, the importance of this. And I asked her, who you voting for? She said, don't worry about it. I keep it to myself, just vote for who you think's the best candidate. And she told me that. And she didn't do the whole, you better vote Democrat thing, And, so it always stuck to mind how she's told me that. But as time went by, I could tell my parents were Democrats.
Right.
And it's kind of went farther. Of course, being in America, watching TV, the media, the communities you're living in, either be Hispanic, the Black community, whatever minority community it is, you just hear Democrat all over the place. Bill Clinton back then and everything.
Right.
So I just said, okay, just a lot of blacks mostly vote Democrat. It gets ingrained in us in a way. You know what I mean? Then you find out your uncles, your aunts, your grandparents, everybody votes Democrat. So you just think it's kind of like a norm. And the first time I heard about conservatism, like really heard about it, I was a cable guy in Georgia for 5 years. I worked down there, and I went to this guy's house. This guy was like the stereotypical, white redneck guy, strangly hair, Budweiser cans, Confederate flag on the wall. So I go to this guy's house and do a cable service, man. I'm looking around like, yo, where the heck am I, man? I'm like, my first year in Georgia, I'm like, yo, this is nuts. But so I go to the guy's house, man, and he's like, yo, my box is here. I see you swiped out. But I check his signal. He has bad signal. He needs like a whole new line. Lines ran to the side of the house. A whole bunch of work needed to be done. So I started doing a bunch of work, and I ended up, being a Georgia son, put my ladder up there, running lines and everything. And the guy comes out. He's like, man, I should have fucking box out. You got to do a whole bunch of stuff. He was like, let me get something to eat, something to drink. Just take your time. I'm glad you're out here working hard. Da da da. So he kind of like eased a little bit. Got some food. We got something to drink. We started talking, and we start talking like just guy stuff. Sports. Women, politics. Da da. And when we got to the politics, we started talking about, just where, where we both stand when it comes to politics. And I started working in my truck, and I never forget this. He asked me, like, let me ask you a quick question, young man. I'm like, sure. He's like, who'd you vote for in his last election? And this is about like 2 weeks after Obama got elected in 08. So I kind of gave him a look like, come on, man. Like, what do you think? And we both laughed. We both kind of had a laugh. He said, look, man, let me tell you something. He said, I didn't vote for Obama, but I hope he does a great job. You know why? And I'm like, why? He's like, because if he does a good job, the country does great. And I'm like, oh. I was like, all right, He's like, let me ask you a few more questions, and you can go about your day, and that'll be it. I'm like, sure. He's like, do you believe in a smaller government? I'm like, yes. Do you believe in traditional Christian values? I'm like, yes. Do you believe in traditional family values? I'm like, yes. Do you believe in lower taxes? Yes. Do you believe in protecting the Constitution? I'm like, yes. The amendment rights and everything. He's going all down the line. And I just go, yes, all the way down the line. And he's like, you know what that was? And I'm like, no. He's like, that was conservatism. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, that was conservatism right there. He's like, you're a sharp, intelligent young man. He's like, I know I'm glad you're in politics at a young age. He's like, but I'm just talking to you. He's like, I have a feeling, you're going to consider conservatism when you get a little older. He's like, if that day comes, remember this conversation we had and just remember this talk. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And, he's like, he got walks up and get in my truck and close the door. And I like, so I close the door. I'm like, yeah, right, man. Okay. Like, yes, we can, buddy. Obama all day. I mean, I was, young at the time. But as time went by, man, and I started thinking more conservative. And when it came to the point where it's like I had made a decision, do I want to be conservative? It was a hump to get over, but it wasn't a huge hump because people already kind of gave me a heads up and prepared me for what it was. It wasn't like I'm going, to the white man's, party and nothing like that. I mean, it was something to hump to get over, but once I got educated and people kind of told me what it really was, it wasn't that difficult for me to make a decision. But I see why a lot of people in our communities struggle because, like I said, not everybody got that kind of, that brace to conservatism like I did. And some people are getting told by their family members, hey, that's a racist party. They hate black people, da da da, and that's all they hear. So
yep.
I think to talking with them, I can understand why it's difficult for them to come over. And even when they feel it's the right thing to do, to make that decision to come over to conservatism.
That seems to be the typical story as far as not the way you went from being a Democrat to Republican, but the fact the way you were initially a Democrat. It seems like you said, it's ingrained in all of us for some reason. And it's a terrible cycle. And we believe that we have to vote this way because, like you said, my uncle, my aunts, my parents, and you're like, oh, that's just the right thing to do. And it's a weird system. And you wonder, it's like, how did we get to this place? that every generation, everyone around us are basically thinking the same way. Is there a bigger form of control? Like, is there a reason why they're doing this to us? And why is it so hard for us to even see outside of that box?
No, that's a good question. Very good question. And I like how you really broke it down like that. There really is there's a bigger piece to the puzzle. And it is an establishment control. It's some people call it deep state, some people call it Illuminati, whatever terminology you want to use for it is. There is an issue going on, and what I learned was, I remember what really opened my eyes to a lot of what's going on out there is when I went and saw Dinesh D'Souza's movie Hillary's America when it came out a few years back. And, I was already kind of opened my eyes, I already kind of was, always been like a kind of conspiracy theorist, even when I was younger, into like looking deeper into things. So when that movie came out and it broke down the history of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, it really educated me on a lot of the truth. And what it really broke down to me was, and especially within the Black community, how it showed you the Democratic Party was the party behind segregation, slavery, lynching, Jim Crow, Planned Parenthood. Margaret Sanger, who started Planned Parenthood because she said blacks were glowing like weeds and had to be cut down. So, it's really, they're the party behind all of those things. And now, if you look at what the Democratic Party is doing, they're using the same tactics and their same goals, but they're achieving them in a different angle. Like I tell people all the time, they enslaved my ancestors physically back in the day. Right. They're enslaving my ancestors now mentally now. So I tell people, like, the perfect example I use is, the first thing they did to blacks when we got the slave ships was they removed the father from the house, from the family. They physically removed the father, and then they'll keep the women and the children, to the plantation that they're on, and they'll put the father in a whole different plantation because they knew when they did that, when the father was totally out of picture, that they could eventually take control of the family unit, and it'd be easier to have access and do what they want to do. So I see them doing the same thing now, but instead of doing it like with a physical plantation or ripping the father away, they use the government to say, hey, look, we'll give you welfare, we'll give you, we'll give you WIC, we'll give you more assistance if you can prove there's no man in the household. So that's where you get the whole attitude where the government becomes the father. And you have I see a lot of black women now that have an attitude that's like, I don't need a man in my life. I can raise kids on my own. I got this covered, because they know the government has their back. And I also have seen situations where a lot of women, that what they'll do as well is they'll hustle the system a little bit and say, hey, look, I'll get a man involved that he's getting paid under the table a lot of times illegally, and I'll bring him in the house because he can bring in money and it won't affect my money because he's not on paper. So if people really look at the bigger picture, who's the one who loses in that whole equation the most that people forget about? The kids. The kids have no stable father figure, if any father figure at all. And, they're on the government assistance their own life. They're living in inner cities. They're dealing with these rough neighborhoods and just, bad school systems. And it just affects the family. And over time, decades of this happening, you have a messed up community. Overall, the black community has issues, and it's because of decades of Democratic Party leadership. And that is the issue that I feel that's affecting both the Hispanic and the black community. And the Democratic Party has done a very good job of covering things up and making it seem like it's not an issue that can be resolved. It's something just like, hey, we're living in a racist country. It is what it is. You're black, you're Hispanic. There's nothing you can do about it. Just play victim and, just wait to get your hand out. And that is the issue that's been affecting both communities very, very badly. And the Republican Party has a whole different approach, an approach to me that's a more American capitalist-based approach of, hey, if you're willing, you're capable, if you want to work hard, hey, you can do whatever you want. And it's the country to do it. So just, get out there, work hard, do what you got to do. And, you can become just as great as anybody else out here is making a lot of money, and he's a successful businessman. So that's what I think a lot of blacks, what they really need to hear, and Hispanics as well, just minorities in general in this country. They need to hear the Republican message over Democratic Party victimhood mentality kind of message.
Dude, that was very deep what you said. It was, and it's very impactful, and it's so true. And you kind of you put it all together in a very nice way, like a very understandable way. Because a lot of times, even me, I try to explain that point of view, but you packaged it up so well. If you don't mind, I'm gonna copy and paste that, and I'm gonna use it, but I'm gonna I'll say your name afterwards, all right? Like a mixtape. Like a mixtape. I'll praise that, and then I say Christopher Wright.
Yeah, right.
That was actually good. And it was sad at the same time listening to this, because this is generations of this happening. And like you said, the people that suffer the most are the children. And then you see this, and then what happens to these children? Most of them end up in the gang life. Most of them end up, hustling or dying at a young age, having no education, no structure, no one to look up to. And it's a terrible thing, like you said, when some women say, I don't need a man to raise my kids. And I'm like, it doesn't, kind of like what Chris Rock said, yeah, you could do it, but don't make it right. During his comedy sketch back in the day. And it's true, you can do it, but it doesn't make it right. And I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing, because I believe that, what you're doing will have an impact, because, you go out there and you do your protest. Christopher Wright is out in the streets and people are looking at you. And I guarantee you have converted many people, whether you know it or not. And what you did was you began a chain of a new conservative family in the future. We look at it, sometimes we look at that now and we don't look at that later. So what you're doing now, you're reaching out to people and you're pulling people in. And then when they start having children, they're going to start teaching them the values of conservatism, because thank God I heard Christopher Wright one day on the street with his bullhorn yelling at people. And I'm like, who is that black man up there yelling? I'm like, and I think you do a great service, and I don't know, and I thank you personally, because I can tell you before, you're one of my favorite people, and I look at you and I'm like,
I really appreciate that.
It's you look like a politician when you're out there, by the way.
I heard that a couple of times. People have mentioned that to me from time to time. And, it doesn't. I don't go out there. That's not my intention. But I do. Tend sometimes to go out there with a suit and tie, kind of look sharp. And when people see me, they're like, "Man, you should be running." Da da da. And it's something I'm considering for sure in time. It's something that's perhaps in the future on the pipeline. But what I'm really focused on right now is, like you said, like what you really made a great point, which is I'm just trying to get my voice out there. And that was my goal, because at first, before I did anything, I was just on social media, just ranting, about the president, and lost half my family and friends, and I was just going on rants. And my friend of mine told me, why don't you start making videos? And I did my first video was for Brandon Strock with the Walkway movement. Right. And when I did that video, it went viral. And when it went viral, I was just like, okay, oh wow, look at this video. Let me start a YouTube channel and like have something where I can maybe get more videos for people to see. And that just grew and grew and grew. And to the point where now it's I started a group, the CRA, the Conservative Republican Alliance.
The CRA, make sure people know about that one. We'll plug it at the end for sure, but.
Yeah, we won't be able. Make sure you people plug that in. But I started that group, and it grew from this like 3 members in my first meeting to my last rally at you were attended at a Turn New York Red rally, had over 200 people there. So, it was just amazing to see it grow, man. And what it is, let me tell you what it is. It's a quote I use from Paul Joseph Watson all the time. And first speech I did, I wore his shirt. It was the Che Guevara colors, the red and black, but with PJW's face on it. And it had this saying, conservatism's a new counterculture. And I tell people all the time that the people that are going to bring in this counterculture are going to be Blacks, Hispanics, and LGBTQ. We're going to be the ones that are going to bring in this new wave of conservatism. And that's why I'm pushing it so much now. And I know how history works, and I know when history is happening, because I'm a history buff. So when this whole thing with Trump was happening and Brexit was happening in Europe and everything, I knew history was happening, and I want to be a part of it. I just didn't know how. And now that everything's happening, it's, okay, now I'm focused. But I still, even with everything that's happening, everything I'm doing, I don't realize it even until I was really going to like the recent I went to the LEXIT event, shout out to Kenneth Owens and Brandon Tatum, Anthony Bryan Logan was there as well. And I went to the previous Black Leadership Summits in DC. And, when I go to these events, man, a lot of people come up to me and they're like, yo, hey man, you're the guy in the Vice video with the Black conservatives and Black liberals. Like, yeah. Like, man, yo, I saw your video, man. I love that speech, man. I was a Democrat when I saw that, but I was really watching what you guys had to say. And after I saw your video, that made me start thinking more conservative and da-da-da. And I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, wow. Man. And so it really blew my mind, because you just don't realize it, man. You're doing things, you put them on the internet, you're getting people's attention. And it's one thing when people are texting, typing in the comment section, hey man, cool, da da da. It's another thing when you're seeing people in physical, and these people are like coming up to you like they're your fan. And they're like, wow, like
it's a weird feeling. Yeah.
It really is mind blowing, man. And like I'm so humble. I don't ever want to get to the point where I'm like, oh yeah, okay, thank you, yeah, scoot along, No, I never want to be like that, because the fact that one person gets their life changed because of what I've done and what I said is life changing for me. And if it's more, if it's dozens, whatever, it's more power. But I'm just amazed that, and especially Gen Z. Gen Z is what I noticed the most, man. 23 and younger.
Yeah. Man,
that generation right there, man, they are very conservative based, in my opinion. And I call them the internet generation. That, like I said, we're around the same age, man. We're that generation where we're technology based, but we grew up on television still. And we remember when the internet just came out. They don't know what a non-internet living is. All they know is internet.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're born and raised on the internet, man, like those young people, man, that's all they get the information from is the internet. They don't watch their news on CNN or MSNBC or they don't know what that is. They all they know is YouTube. So, that is why the people get so depressed sometimes when they see what's going on in the world and they think about the future. We're just screwed. It's like, no, look at the young people, man. Look at what they're on and look at what they're listening to, what they're watching. Look at what the memes are putting out there.
Basically speak their language. You got to speak their language if you want to reach them. Like, if you're going to post something, they like short little clips, short little memes, and that's the news for them. So that's
TikTok,
how you.
It's like TikTok's like crack for them, man. They love it.
Exactly.
And I've noticed like Instagram, TikTok. I'm learning TikTok still a little bit. Instagram, I'm on that heavy. That's where I put my base memes at right there, man. So I get their attention on Instagram. I go on live on Instagram every now and then. So I find my ways to connect with them, man. And anytime it's Chandler Crump and his brother Mikhail Crump, they reached out to me a couple of times, man, to do videos with them, interviews with them. I'm always down to help them out, man. And every time I see them, I'm like, yo, Gen Z, keep doing your thing, guys, because they're the ones who are going to really, to me, bring that real physical change. Like, we're the ones who are going to get started, get the wheels turning, but they're going to be the ones that come with the hammer behind us. Like, boom, like, we're in here, we're getting in positions of political power. This is the future, is conservatism. So
it's weird that you say that, because now it's like we have to lay the foundation. Exactly what you're doing. You're laying the foundation. We can't discredit these people because they're young. We think they're stupid. They just have a kind of different language.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the older people looking at us like, oh, what are you doing?
Of course.
I
remember these guys looking at us like that. And I remember when I was young, I was like, man, I don't want to ever get old and be like that. And be
exactly.
Like,
yeah.
What is this TikTok? Back in my day,
Exactly. I didn't want to be that guy. Unfortunately, I am like that with hip hop. But besides hip hop,
oh my gosh, bro! I say that all the time. Every time I hear this, like I hear new trap songs coming out, I'm like, man, I don't ever want to be that guy. Listen to hip hop and be like, what the heck is this? But I'm like, y'all made me do it with this trap stuff, man. It's like you guys be turning me old with this. I feel like I'm 30 years older than I am when I do this stuff, man.
Because really, I mean, that's how I am, but I don't want to talk into hip hop because
you know, we already know.
Good man. But yeah, but it's amazing how you went from 3 people when you started your movement to that huge Fifth Avenue rally that you did, and I attended in front of Trump Tower. That was a powerful day, man. That I was so glad to be a part of it. I mean, just to join you. And the way you guys were handling it, and what was the weird part is that as we're there, and I look back for a moment, I'm like, there's so many people here, and most of them look like us, Blacks and Hispanics, in the middle of Fifth Avenue, Trump Towers, and I was impressed. I'm like, I was really proud of that moment. I'm like, wow.
Oh no, man, that was a powerful moment right there, brother. That was true. United we stand. We the people kind of moment, man. And, shout out to my friend of mine, Josephine Valdez. She was out there as well, holding it down, doing her thing. And we had so many pictures out there. And what's so funny is when you saw Black Lives Matter come out and Antifa later on, and they looked at us, they didn't know what to do, how to even approach us. Like, and I had the one time I had the microphone, I was with had the girl, there was like, not to bring race into it, whatever, but there's like women, and they had one girl had the Black Trans Lives Matter.
I remember that.
You remember what I'm talking about? I had the microphone. Where are the black people? Where are the black people? Because I'm like, you guys are here, Black Lives Matter, but I see no black people. And it's like, you know, only black people I see are on our side, you know.
Exactly.
So, and they didn't know what to do. They had their talking points weren't going to work with us, man. They didn't know how to respond, how to handle us, or, you know, even where to begin. But that was a powerful moment. And I wanted the people, especially people witnessing it, that were there to see. Like, this isn't some crazy redneck, you know, MAGA thing. This is everybody's, and this is America here.
Like, to paint that scene, we're standing in front of where de Blasio painted Black Lives Matter. Just so people get the scene.
Yeah,
so we're
standing
standing right there. We have the police here. We have our crowd, well, your crowd. I'm attending your crowd. And then you just see people coming and the triggering. And then at one point, do you remember there was one point where there were about 9 or 10, again, not to bring in race, but white people yelling at you guys saying, you don't know about Black lives, yelling at you. And I'm looking, I'm like, they're all Black. What are you telling these guys about Black lives?
Yeah. And see, that's what's so crazy, man, because I tell you all the time, people on the left, you know, sometimes, you know, it's so crazy on the left, man. I look at them, so the radical left, really, man. It seems like they are looking for hate. They're looking for racism. They're like, they talk about it so much, it's almost like they want it to happen. Like, they want the KKK to show up out of nowhere and, you know, all this crazy stuff. And I tell people all the time, if you really want racism, like, especially when I talk to the blacks on the left and debate them, I'm like, you guys want to see it so bad. If you guys want to see it, just put on a MAGA hat and walk through Manhattan. And I guarantee within an hour, somebody's going to say some borderline racist, if not full on racist, right to you. You know, and what it is, it's low expectation racism, I call it.
Right.
And low expectation racism is when you see, like, I see, you know, people who are white on the left, when they see me, in their mind, you can see there's a moment, they look at me when I have a MAGA hat on or something, they look at me like I'm foolish, like, you ignorant, you don't even know what you're doing. Like, you probably don't know enough about politics, you got this MAGA hat on, right, trying to show off for the white man, and that's what's going on in their head. And I know it is a lot of times. So when they see me, they come with that kind of smug, like, I don't really know what I answer back with a smug, like, yes, I know what I'm talking about. And do you know about this? And do you know about your history lesson? And I go right to school on them. Because I know how a lot of these guys are. They're super intellectuals, they got their PhDs or master degrees, NYU, blah, blah, blah.
Smart, dumb people.
And that's not to bring hip hop in it, but, you know, Ghostface called them smart, dumb N-words.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't want to, I was kind of going there, but I didn't say it.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's so true, though. It's so accurate. And what I do is, so when I go to that mode, because I know I dealt with so many times, I've done it like so many times dealing with these people, man, is I go right to, I'm schooling mode. Like, I go to history lessons. And when I'm schooling them, I tell them I'm schooling them. And I do that not to make fun of them, mock them, but I'm doing that because I know in their mind, they're thinking, I'm so much smarter than you are. I'm so much more educated than you are. So when I'm, you know, actually giving them lessons and facts and evidence, and then I'm telling them I'm schooling them, that
dropping
gets
them
right
jewels.
off that high horse, right? Like, come on, let's go. Let's what you got. And then once I get them there, then I just demolish them. And then once I do that, that usually ends up, a lot of times, like, the racism starts to peak out a little bit. Like, it goes, you know, kind of hatred comes out. Because TDS, the trunk derangement syndrome, gets real. All that comes out. And there's been times, mostly online, where people reacted by calling, you know, white people call me a coon, Uncle Tom. And when I get them to do that, I always go, yep, see, there we go. You're a racist. I confirmed it.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, no, I'm not a racist. I'm like, you just told a black man he's not being black enough. What do you call that?
Exactly.
Like, well, I wasn't trying. I'm like, that's what you just did. When you're a white person telling a black man you're a coon, or you're turning your back on your people, like, who are you to say that? Like, I would never in my life go to another race of people. Like, I see somebody who's Asian by himself talking about their community and say, you don't know what you're talking about. You're turning your back on your Asian community. Like, I know how it is to be Asian, or, you know, like, I can relate to that at all. Like, who am I to speak on behalf of who am I? Like, I'm not the Asian representative, or even a black man speaking on another black man when it comes to the black community. Who are you? Are you the black spokesperson for black people? Like, nobody should be speaking on nobody on that kind of level.
But what does that mean, the community? Does that mean just because you're all black, you're all supposed to think in one specific way? You're supposed to think specifically one way? Do they think that all black people should think that way? It's like, that is racism. And you know what's funny is a lot of people are racist and they don't know it. Like, you ever had a conversation, like I've had conversations with my black and Hispanic friends, right? And as they're talking to me about racism, they start talking about the white man and using derogatory words to describe white people. And I stopped them. I'm like, you just called them a cracker. You just said this word about a redneck. I'm like, you were being racist while complaining about racism. Has that ever happened to you?
Oh, of course. And when you point, I know when you point it out to them, you might have heard this before, like, oh, I can't be racist, or Hispanics can't be racist, or blacks can't be racist.
I don't understand that one.
It blows my mind. And my sister, God bless her, man. She been living in Manhattan for quite a bit of time, so she has her ways sometimes. And we debated about this one time, and I brought the fact that, anybody can be racist, blacks can be racist. And when she said that blacks can't be racist, I'm like, well, how is that? And she says, well, the definition of racism, which is like, they go to the liberal definition, the Webster definition, is you have to have power. The race that has power is the one who only can be considered racist. Like, you have to have power within your race to be considered racist, whatever that means.
I don't know.
So I said, okay. So what I do to the left often is when they have the little liberal leftist ways of explaining things, I will sometimes even play their game and beat them at their own game.
Yes.
So with my sister, I'm like, okay, so say there's 3 black men, walking down the street, and it's late at night, and a white woman walks down the street, and they say, oh, look at this white woman here. We can take advantage of her. And they end up, attacking her, raping her, taking advantage of her, leaving her on this corner, whatever. Who had the power in that situation? Did the white woman have the power because she's white and she has white privilege?
Good point.
Or did the 3 black grown men, adult men, have the power, and they used their power to take advantage of the situation? Who had the power? And it's like, so you can't, if you want to play that game, there's situations where you can say, okay, well, if you look at there's majority white people in the country, and if you add up all the financial gains they have, then it's more to black people. So you use that as power. You're just thinking money. That's not all power is. Power is physical power. It's financial power. It's power comes in different ways and different forms. So if that's the case, what happens if, like I said, in a rape or something like that, isn't that racism right there? And so it's like,
that's a great point.
I agree with the way you try to explain it. I can use it in your way and still beat you at your own game.
Exactly.
So just like, how about we just don't play the stupid game to say if somebody's hating on another person because of their skin color, that's racism, period. That's it. I don't know what else there's explain to people, man.
It's simple, but they always make the simple complex just to fit their little agenda. It happens all the time, and it's a frustrating thing. And they talk about like systemic racism. I'm like, what does that mean? Explain to me what is systemic racism. I'm like,
language when you talk with them sometimes, man. Like, they use these words. I'm like, what in the world you guys learn this from? Like, it's like they went to different schools sometimes than me. It's like,
yeah. And I'm like, so what happened when you had your first black president? Was he in charge of the systemic racism? Was he on top of the throne? And they're like, oh, no. So did racism skip 8 years? I don't understand. I don't understand the whole logic. But again, the left, that's all they have. That's usually the last card when they're losing. Kind of like right now with Donald Trump. They've been attacking the man with, again, the other night on the debate, asking him to denounce white supremacy. And we could just go to the videotape and see years of him denounce. But again, this is the left, and that's all they have. And I just think they use that tactic to kind of ingrain in the minds of black people that you haven't gotten anywhere yet. You're still under that thumb of racism. You're not going to get any stronger. You're not going to grow. You're not going to get bigger. And I think that's what they're doing.
Oh no, you're right. That's what they are doing. And like I said earlier, back in the day it was physical enslavement. Now it's mental. This is all mental. It's and like I said, it was difficult from somebody from me who researched this and look, history buff, all this stuff. It was difficult for me to get past that last hill of the Democratic Party, the Democratic plantation. Like, and I tell people all the time, I never felt so free until I finally broke those chains off of me. And and then when I finally came out and said, this is what I am, some family members cut me off, friends cut me off. And after all of that, and it was on, the dust cleared, that's when I became, to me, like, for the first time in my entire life, like, this is me, truly free. And luckily, I still got the videos start coming out and start getting really out there. Because before that, I was just ranting every day to myself. But I felt more free ranting, getting 1-2 likes a day with all my rants than I did, just talking about how great Obama was because he had a great jump shot. and everybody's saying, oh yeah, you're the man, you can have all that all day long, man. You can keep that fake love, man. And so I tell you all the time, like, I help so many people. I see black people, man, they're struggling all the time. Especially when I go to these events, like the LEXIT events, and, and they're really, coming up to me like, thank you so much for what you're doing. And I wish I could do what you want, what you can do. If, as long as their job's on the line, because I talk to people sometimes where their job is like, if my job finds it, I'm done, my career's over. Yeah. I'm not a person to tell somebody to risk their career. But if it's not career related, I tell people all the time, if you're on that edge and you're just struggling, like kind of let's keep, staying in the closet with your conservative beliefs, I'm like, just come out, man. Just do what you got to do. You're going to feel so much better when you finally do that, because, it's generally who you are. And it's what a lot of black minorities in general are. Like, most black people I know growing up were conservatives, Christian values, traditional family values, a lot of the conservative, amendment rights, Second Amendment, your gun rights, everything like that. My dad's the most conservative man I've ever met in my life, still votes Democrat. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's unfortunate what it is. It's what I've learned, especially when you're talking to family member or friends and, in your community, is when you talk to them about conservatism, I say avoid the T word, Trump. Don't just bring up Trump.
You're right.
So that's going to immediately just make things go sour. Talk about, like with my dad, I talk about what's his stance on late-term abortion and post-mortem abortion. And he, of course, he's being a pastor now. He's, of course, against all of that. But I tell him, when you vote Democrat, you're passing these laws. And like New York just passed it. I'm like, they lit the Freedom Tower pink.
Yep.
When they passed it, they did a stand ovation in Albany. It was a celebration.
They were enjoying it.
It was a joyous moment when they did that. It wasn't even like they passed it. It was, okay, well, we barely got it through. Okay, people in the low. It was a celebration. And when I told him that, he was like, he was thrown back. And so what I've been doing with him, every time I talk politics with him, I never bring up Trump. I just bring up the policies that the left are passing or want to get passed. And I bring up the policies that have been getting passed under Trump presidency and how blacks have benefited off lowest black unemployment in American history, off opportunity zones, so much he's with the First Step Act, everything he's done with that, so much he's done for the black community. I just mentioned these things. And he, of course, doesn't know anything about that. The record number is 6 rings that Trump has busted since he's been president. He doesn't know any of this. So when I tell him this, he's first shocked about what Trump's done, and then he's shocked to see what the Democratic Party's up to. And once you kind of break it down in a kind of political policy way for people, they're more willing to listen to what you have to say. And that's what they call it, red pilling. That's a good way to get the red pills out, man. And with people, some people are quick to kind of digest the pill, and some take time, man. But if somebody's willing to listen to you, take your time out and talk with them, man. Because a lot of times people think, I'm wasting my breath talking to this person, they're not listening. But I think if they're sitting there listening to what you have to say, they're listening to you.
Right.
It's, it's just all people are different, man. Some people are going to act like they're not hearing the word, man, that whatever, but they're still listening. It's still getting through. So don't think when you talk to somebody, it's not getting through, man.
It's funny you say that, because I always tell people, it's difficult to convert a liberal overnight. You can't do it because the indoctrination is strong. This is years of indoctrination. So I always say, don't get upset. Find a topic that you can agree upon, just like you started with your dad. And usually, to me, the topic is what you mentioned, that late-term abortion. I'm like, hey, I think we all can agree late-term and post-birth murder of a baby is wrong. So usually when I speak to a liberal that's calm, I'm like, how do you feel about this? And we'll build on that. And maybe I won't convert them then, but I'm like, okay, we have a foundation where we can grow. And then later on, I'll bring up another topic. And like, what do you think about this? And then you slowly but surely break that ice, because you're not going to do it overnight. Because as soon as you start yelling and ranting, the wall goes up. The defensive wall goes up. It's just blocked, and they don't want to hear what you're saying. So if you be calm and relaxed too, I mean, unless you're out there with your bullhorn and yelling people down, that's great. They trigger all day. But I'm talking about
times for that. There are times.
Yeah. But when I go with friends and family, whatever, stuff like that, calm. But by the way, you know what's weird and funny about you? You seem like a calm, quiet, humble guy, man. But it's like when you talk about conservatism and you're out there and you're talking, you look like you're another person. You guys, you gotta see Christopher Wright on the on the megaphone just going in, like you're like Jekyll and Hyde. Like, wow, look at this passion. It's awesome. And like you ripped off your shirt and that S came out. Like,
You didn't know about that, did you?
I love it, man. Oh,
no,
man.
it's funny you said, man, because I just consider myself, very calm, laid back kind of personality. Always kind of been like that. But I always had a personality where people that know me growing up, I always been that person that's very calm to himself. Don't mess with anybody. But as soon as somebody comes and confronts me or put their hands on me, it's like I flip, And I always try to say I don't want to actually kind of take it there, because I prefer to be calm and relaxed, a lot less stress, a lot less to worry about when you're that way. Life is a lot easier. But when things in life that are in jeopardy, that are very important, that I care about, you got to, I feel like, you got to step and fight sometimes, man. And like it says, when it comes to your country, when it comes to your personal well-being, when it comes to protecting your family, those are situations in life where it's like you can't play patty cake. You can't, be
Right.
soft. Either you stand up and fight, or either not now or never, And that's what you see when I go out here for a lot of my rallies and events. When I get on that megaphone, it's a lot of times I don't even know, I get in the zone, I just start speaking on something and the passion gets into it. And when that happens, like sometimes I watch my videos after I'm done. I'm like, whoa, did I really say that? All right, cool. But and I think that's anybody who loves their country has that in them, and people don't realize it. I know there's people that see what I'm doing. They're like, oh man, I can never do what you do. I can never get up there. And after coaching them and, encourage them a lot, they get out there and they're on the microphone yelling and doing what they got to do, man. So it's one of those things where, you never know until you're in that situation. And like I said, with me, I was a person that didn't even like taking pictures at one point. And a good girlfriend of mine down south, she told me, hey, you need to start doing videos. And, she's, a person that loves to do videos, and she, always on Instagram and Facebook, doing videos herself. And, shout out to my friend Quan, by the way. And then she just told me, start doing videos. And when I did it, I just want to do video, just like, okay, let me give a voice out there. If I get 10 likes and like one comment, I'll be like, that'd be great. And when I did the video and it kind of blew up the way it did, it caught me off guard. And I didn't expect to get that kind of response. So when the response came, at first it was overwhelming, very overwhelming. But as time got by, I kind of, started to figure things out, try to, saw kind of the people that were coming in my circle who were actually trying to help, and those who weren't. And I kind of like, were able to, get the right people to kind of get, help me move forward in what I'm doing, man. And it's gotten to a point now where it's sharpened my blade a whole lot more. And now, man, when I get out there, it's like, I'm on a mission, man. And it's, it's like I said, I am very taken back myself sometimes of what's going on, man. Like I'll do an event and I'm just hoping to get people out there, to even get 10 people out there. Next thing you know, it's, over 200 people, and people bringing their own equipment. And, and that's the thing about America and about the whole MAGA movement that's so beautiful. It's, I'm setting things up, I'm trying to get things done, and it's overwhelming for me. But when the people come out, man, they come with their A game, man. So they come prepared themselves. So it really helps me out and makes the workload a lot easier for me. And that's what helps me keep moving forward. Because I tell these people when they see me at these events, they say, I can't believe what you're doing. Thank you so much for what you're doing. And I tell them the only reason why I'm doing this is because of you guys, man. Like if it wasn't for you guys putting a battery in my back and encouraging me and, being positive and, the support, and the donating, people have been, just financially just loving what I'm doing, say, keep doing what you're doing. It's just all of that, man, is what keeps things, keeps things strong, man, keeps the CRA going, keeps it growing. And, that's why I'm out there doing what I do, man.
Yeah, you are by far, you are a strong voice, man. And I think you have a great future ahead of you. I don't know whether it's in politics or doing something more, but I see a bright future in you, man, because not a lot of people can do what you do. I know you probably think that, oh, it's not much, but you do a lot. And every time I see you're doing something, you're working hard. And I know you do it. It's not more for the president. It's more for this country. We're doing it not for this president, but it's definitely for the country and the future of this country. And you're fighting hard for this country. And, people of New York owe you a debt of gratitude. And one day they're going to look back and be like, this man, Christopher Wright, was the man. He got all this rolling, man. So in Brooklyn, my man.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling people, man, that's what I'm trying to that's what, as crazy as it seems, man, the reason why I'm doing, because like I said, I'm a history buff, man. That's why the Turn New York Red was such a big thing for me. And so many New Yorkers, even some to this day, even now and then, say to me like, "Man, New York will never be red, man. Like, you're crazy, man. I don't know why you even do." I'm like, I see things happening, man. I'm looking down the road. Things are changing as we speak. Things are going to continue to change in the future. And one of those things I feel is going to happen is New York turning red, man. And I feel California is possibly the same thing over there. And when something like that happens in the future and those things occur, I want people when people look back, they're going to see. Then Chris was started way back when Chris was saying this, man.
And I still use your hashtag turn NY red. I still use it. I don't stop using it. Every time I'm on Instagram, I'm like turn NY red. I always put your hashtag all the time. So that's always popping. So you know what's funny? I had a list of questions here to ask you, and I did not get to one at all.
No, those are the best interviews, man. I'm telling you right now, man. Because I'm not a question on an index card kind of guy, man. I'm like, you just wing it, man. You know, whatever you want.
That's how I am. I just had the things here. I'm like, I didn't get to any of these. But before we go, I just want to make sure people know more about, you know, what you're doing, your websites, your YouTube channel, which is amazing. Yes, your YouTube channel. And first of all, you have your movement and the Conservative Alliance.
That's
CRA.
There you go. Republican Alliance.
There you go. I always mix that up. The CRA, Conservative Republican Alliance, by my man right here. And where else can people like reach you at if they want to see more of your content?
You're trying to find me. You can find me on YouTube. Just put my name, Christopher Wright, and that's Wright with a W, like Wright Brothers, WRIGHT. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Chris Wright NNY, and it's NIN, so it's spelled out. So it's Chris, my last name Wright, WRIGHT, IN, and then NY. So Chris Wright NNY. You can find me on Facebook. My name is Christopher Wright. Let's look Conservative Republican Alliance. You can find that on Twitter at CRA New York. You can find mine at Twitter for the CRA. You can find it on Facebook. It's Conservative Republican Alliance. I'm going to be starting a Christopher Wright show coming up in a few weeks, so stay tuned for that. I got a few guests lined up. You know, a couple big names. Keep down a little DL a little bit, but you know, I got that lined up for the future, man. Going to make the podcast the next big thing I'm going to be working on to build up the channel along with the podcast. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, man, I'm going to be staying busy, man. Just, you know, like I said, the wheels are turning, man. The ball's rolling, and you know, conservatism in the future, brother. So just trying to help to bring it in, man.
Dude, I'm glad that we were able to talk, to have this conversation, man. You're a great asset to this movement, man. So I thank you. Because I love your stuff. You know I support you. And thank you once again, man. I'll make sure to plug all your information afterwards.
Yeah, definitely.
It'll be in the post. But all right, man. Appreciate it, man. God bless. I appreciate all your hard work, man.
Hey, Angel, always a pleasure, man. Thank you for reaching out to me, brother. And keep doing what you're doing too, man. God bless you, man. You out there, man. You're grinding too, man. You know, you're the Goya guy. I see you got the name now.
Yeah.
I like it. You know what I mean? Go and get your boy, man. You know what I mean? So no, man, you know, keep doing what you're doing, brother, man. You got a lot in your future, a lot of bright future as well for you, man. You're a sharp dude. You know what you're talking about, man. You got a great way to present your message, and you know, just keep working hard, my brother, man. You got a lot of things lined up for you as well, man.
All right, thank you, man. Guys, man, Christopher Wright. Peace out, guys.